Hey everybody, it is Offsite Dirt time, and we have high performance build. I'm Sean Santamore, and we are going to go a deep dive with two of my greatest friends here. We got Mark Willie and Joe Kanapaki, and we're going to dive deep into some building science principles. Mark, who is this guy?
Uh, Joe has been holding it down in the inspection and building performance world for many, many years. We call him the party of the third party. And yeah, we're going over improving the performance of existing buildings. Joe, welcome back to High Performance Build.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mark. Sean, good to see you. Glad to be here with folks at Offsite Dirt.
Okay, well, let's dive into it. So we hear you have an amazing course that you're launching. Let's give us the goods. Dive deep into it. So building science principles is a bit of the premise, but give us all the fun details and then let's get into it.
So, we've got most of the homes that are out in the market right now are existing homes, and many of them were built 30 years or more ago, and so all of them there's room for improvement, right? In the Chicagoland area, we have 3.5 million houses, most of them built more than 20 years ago. So all of those homes need, kind of a leveling up, and that starts with establishing kind of where they are on that scale of performance. Building science principles is a entry level course that gets everybody kind of up to speed as far as the dynamics of airflow, heat flow, and moisture flow as they impact the performance of existing homes. And so whether you're just answering the phones, because you're, intaking clients for a weatherization program, or you are going to be, doing air sealing and insulating a house, and you have to do a combustion safety test to make sure that, you're not going to create a problem as you're resolving other things. Everybody needs to understand those building science principles. And so the course that we've been teaching for a while, but we're launching an online version of it so that people can kind of self-pace and kind of get that education on their own, at their own speed. That course we would teach that in a pretty significant paced 8-hour course, right? It's a lot of information. So having it online where folks can, listen to a few segments, let it absorb, maybe listen to it again, go on to another couple sessions, and kind of take it in at their own pace is huge. So, BPI's put together some good content. But I mean, the feedback that we've gotten is it's different. There's something a little extra having it, kind of delivered and explained by, an individual that's had a fair amount of experience in the industry. So, yeah, we've gotten some good feedback.
That's great.
Love that the course is online. This way, people could do it at their own time and be prepared to advance their skills. So, Joe, let's go to the first topic, right? It's safety. In this case, it's combustion safety for existing buildings. So, what are we expected to learn, and how does this benefit the marketplace?
Well, we often get folks that, start to do a little bit of research, realize that building air leakage is a big deal. They need to make their homes less drafty. It's the quickest, most cost-effective way to generally improve the efficiency and comfort of your house is to do air sealing. But if you make your house tighter, you can create combustion safety issues with atmospherically vented natural draft gas appliances. So if you've got a gas water heater, a gas furnace, and they exhaust through metal flue pipes, they have some risk of exhaust spillage, and potentially other combustion safety issues, right? And so, we want to make the house tighter to make it more comfortable and efficient, but we've got to keep an eye on those gas appliances and make sure that we're not pushing them over the edge and resulting in some of those exhaust byproducts, finding their way back into the house, right? You might be more comfortable, but now you're going to be sick. You're going to have a sore throat. You're going to have a headache. You're going to have runny nose or something like that. It all depends on what the exposure ends up being, hopefully zero, but that's why we do the testing.
Gotcha. And so again, we're talking about testing, bringing in the air leakage detector, also known as the red door of truth. We all kind of know it as the blower door test, where again, you're doing what we love, testing and verifying the existing space. So then you get a benchmark and then figure out how to do things. And I really like, again, how, you're talking about airtightness, but making sure you've got some measurements and being sure again of, hey, how does this existing building lie? It might be a leaky sieve. It might be somewhat airtight, depending on what improvements have occurred. But without doing that test, they just don't know. So it's great that you guys start with that, cover that, and then also just dive into the real benefits of just that starting point.
Yeah. It is a bit it's a bit of a question mark, right? We're not sure how tight a house is when we show up. I mean, there's homes that we think are, fairly airtight and they turn out to be kind of a leaky mess, and other ones you're sure is a leaky mess and they tend to be a lot tighter than you would have expected. So, with a lot of these things, you're doing the test because you just don't know until you do it, right? It's an objective measure, right? And that's one of those kind of important distinctions. This is not just, what somebody's feel is of the house. These are, we're using, manometers and infrared cameras and such to get an objective measure of what's going on in the house. And once you know how leaky the home is, then you've got some idea of how much that tug of war is going to be on your natural draft appliances. Is there going to be some exhaust spillage? What kind of carbon monoxide are those gas appliances generating? I mean, there is a lot of focus on moving towards decarbonization and moving your house to all electric from natural gas. But the fact of the matter is that's going to be a transition that's going to play out over the next 5, 10, 15 years, right? Nobody, if somebody bought a new furnace today, they're not going to get rid of it in the next 5, 10 years. That's just silly, right? There's plenty of energy and resource that goes into that furnace, and you got to get that, you got to get that out of there. What are we going to do in the meantime, right? And that's what we've been doing a lot lately is helping people kind of understand what that path towards having an all electric house might look like, and it might be a 10-year or 20-year path, right? But combustion safety is right at the beginning of it, because house can be efficient, house can be comfortable, but if it's not, if we've lost the health and well-being inside there, then we haven't gained much.
Gotcha. I feel like I'm going to set you up for the next question. What kind of tools are you using in this whole verification process?
We are using our blower door, depressurization equipment, right? So the blower door just sucks air out of the house and tells us how leaky the house is. The infrared cameras help us figure out where those air leak locations are. For years, back in the 70s, 80s, nobody had that kind of equipment, right? Yeah. Nobody had a blower door to depressurize a house. Nobody had an infrared camera that could see where that cold air or warm air is infiltrating as a result. Now we've got those two tools put together are great. And then you throw in maybe some pressure testing of individual rooms or other connected, spaces or zones to the house, and you really can create a map of where those points of air intrusion are. So then the contractors that follow a building analyst would effectively have a targeted list of these are all the areas that we need to seal up to make this, to really raise the performance of this home, right? Improve its efficiency and get it one step closer to, maybe being all electric and self-sustaining with its own PV panels on the roof.
Yeah. Again, I love the history, a little lesson there, because again, me being the Canadian, I got to bring up Mr. Harold Orr, who started off the Saskatchewan house and was one of the inventors. I know there's about 3 or 4 here in Canada that started off creating and doing blower door tests. And now when we go from all of the different systems and methodologies that have been incorporated to bring us to this stage, where now you're continuing the education of teaching other individuals in the industry of how to test and verify in the methods described here. It's really good. So we talked about, understanding the basics, then understanding the relationship between the current home and what these improvements can do. And then kind of what's the next phase after that? What's the next kind of learning part of the curriculum that you guys are providing?
So the next step after building science principles, you can go a couple different ways. We have healthy home evaluators. These are generally like folks that are going through county weatherization programs or other county low-income programs that'll go in there and evaluate homes on a health and safety level. We have infiltration and IDL, infiltration and duct leakage. So it's a technician level, like blower door, home leakage and duct leakage, typically applied to new construction. Right?
Gotcha.
You're doing code compliance. And then the third path that folks will take from building science principles is the technician level. Building analyst technician would be the first individual that would enter a home and effectively evaluate its starting point, right? This is the first thorough evaluation we're going to be, anybody's going to be doing of the house. We're going to figure out its building leakage profile, its insulation, our values throughout the home, combustion safety profile of the house, and really kind of get a decent starting point to put together a work scope that addresses health and safety, building durability, comfort and energy efficiency, and for the most part, we put a lot of focus on whenever possible improving the building enclosure. Because the better building enclosure is, the less the mechanical systems have to do, right? So that means either putting in something smaller or putting in something definitely more efficient, and potentially something that maybe is electricity based, so your own PV panels can run it, right? The grid goes down, you're one step closer to being able to kind of take care of your your own house, your own, make sure you've got heat, fresh air, frozen food, cold milk, chilled insulin if necessary. I mean, that's big deal stuff. So and the lower your loads are, the easier it is to kind of generate what you need to kind of cover what you use. So yeah, step by step, trying to get people to that point.
So it's an 8-hour course. It's online. People can take it as long as they need to, but again, the curriculum is there.
Yep.
You're focusing on making sure understanding of air tightness, making sure they understand the relationship in the building between combustion equipment and air tightness and how things affect.
Yep.
Then you're talking again about other principles then of how to move things forward in the testing and verifying. Anything else that we missed?
There's a lot of talk about, heat flow through the building assembly, so conductive
Mhm.
heat flow, radiant, heat gain typically,
Yeah.
convective, heat loss through, just kind of the movement of air and, different kind of currents, air currents in the house. So
Yeah.
it gets into all that. So we're really kind of diving into the dynamics of airflow, heat flow, and moisture flow on the building enclosure. We get into the mechanical systems. What are typical systems, what are high efficiency systems, and what systems do we have some combustion safety concerns about? Different kinds of energy efficiency measures that can be done to a home. We even in the final section talks about the Department of Energy's home energy score. It's kind of a very fairly simple energy modeling tool that get with existing homes, we don't have a whole lot of information. So having a pretty deep database of metrics from existing homes is important to be able to get a fairly accurate energy model with very few inputs, right? And so home energy score is a great tool that kind of finds that balance of, hey, we only have so many pieces of information. How can we get an accurate energy model out of this? And so the final section in the building science principles training is talking about the home energy score and the value of using a tool like that.
Great.
It's beautiful. So we already tapped into the home energy score and the building science principles. There will be a QR code available. You can always hop over to Insight Property Services. Joe's got that logo right there. And I'm Mark Willie with Offsite Dirt. Sean Moore delivering the high performance build. Joe Conopacchi, the high performance build with building science principles. Take the course, and if you have questions, just ask Joe.